this coming Sunday, Parker is actually scheduled to speak. Forgot about that when we scheduled years ago, but not years ago, months ago. But he's excited about, so be much in prayer for him. I'm excited about being able to hear Parker speak this coming Sunday. I'll read a quote to you. It says, "I'm more deadly than the screaming shell from a rifle. I win without killing. I tear down homes and I break hearts. I wreck lives. I travel on the wings of the winds, and no innocence is strong enough to intimidate me. No purity pure enough to daunt me. I have no regard for truth and no respect for justice, no mercy for the defenseless. My victims are as numerous as the sands of the sea, and they're often as innocent. I never forget, and I seldom forgive. My name is Gossip." Morgan Blake, a sports writer for the Atlanta Journal, wrote that years ago in the satirical writings of his weekend. But there's a lot of power in that, because what we got to understand is that our words are very damaging. Our words can be very damning. Because we can say something and then say, "I'm sorry for it," but the truth of the matter is, even though we've extended an apology, the damage has often been done, and sometimes it can be irreversible. I remember being a rambunctious young boy growing up, and I remember having a lot of scrapes and tears and torns and so forth. But they're healed and they're gone now. I may have some repercussions in a knee from an injury and things like that, but as a whole, that instance in my life is a thing of the past. I also remember there are things that people said to me that I still remember, even as a 44-year-old man. There's an old saying that we've taught our children growing up, and that is, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but what? Words will never hurt me." That is a lie. Because sticks and stones can heal. Those wounds can heal, but the words of someone who speak harshly to you oftentimes have long-lasting results. 2 weeks ago, we began a journey on what it means to have faith that is alive and not dead. We finished that last week, and tonight we're going to go into James, or we're going to go through just a few verses, I assure you, not our complete goal. But in James chapter 3, verse 1, he says, "Dear brothers and sisters, not many of you should become teachers in the church, for we who teach will be judged more strictly." The New Living Translation says in verse 2, "Indeed, we all make many mistakes, but if we can control our tongues, we would be perfect, and could also control ourselves in every other way." I'm not even going to attempt to read past that, because I don't think we'll get much further than the first 3 verses tonight. See, the tongue by nature is a tattletale. Because the tongue will tell what kind of heart you have. It really will. You can pretend, and we can pretend, and we can put on airs, but our words will betray us. Our words will testify of who we are. The tongue will identify the true spirit that we have. See, the tongue is you. We can say, "Oh, I didn't mean to say this," and oftentimes, there may be some truth to that, but if we really examine it, oftentimes we absolutely did mean to say it. We just didn't mean to get caught saying it. Jeremiah 17 says in verse 9, "The human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is?" Matthew tells us in chapter 7, verse 21, "Out of the heart cometh evil. It is deceitful above all else." What am I saying? I'm saying that the tongue testifies of the heart. You listen closely to how a person speaks, and oftentimes you'll see a direct image of that person's heart. Matthew chapter 12, we studied on Sunday mornings. I'll read just a few verses before I get into the passage tonight. Jesus is speaking, and he calls these religious people, he says, "You brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you're evil? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. The good person out of his good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of evil treasure brings forth evil. I tell you the truth, that on the day of judgment, everyone will give an account for every careless word we speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." I'm laying a foundation here because I want you to understand that our words are important to God. I read these statistics and I wrote them down. It says that the average person speaks 30,000 words a day. I know you know some people who speak a lot more than that, right? 10,680,000 words a year in a 20-year span. That's 213,600,000 words that the average person speaks. And God's Word says that every single one of those He keeps a record of. Out of the heart cometh evil. Our president, our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, the penny president, he says, I would rather remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak up and remove all doubt. Proverbs reiterates this and says, even a fool seems wise when he or she keeps their mouth shut. Our heart is revealed in our speech. Why am I telling you that? Because God several times throughout His teaching, through His apostles, through His students, and through His own words, said, be careful. Because what you say can either build someone up or can completely damage the life of an individual. You think about this, some of the most difficult times in your life have been brought on by what people have said. Somebody you trusted, someone you loved, you heard them say something about you, the way they talked to you, the way they spoke to you, and it crushed your spirit, and you go, how in the world can a person do this? And I want to tell you, there are times that we say things and do things we should not say and we should not do. But if a person has a habit or a pattern of speaking derogatory or ugly, it is a revelation of their heart. And regardless of their position in a church, regardless of their position in a society, our heart reveals itself in the words we speak. Isaiah tells us in chapter 6, woe is me, for I am lost. I am a man of unclean lips, the prophet says. So tonight we're going to talk about a dire warning against our speech and what our responsibility is for our tongue. Number one, it's found in verse 1. It says it's a warning to the teachers. He says, dear brothers and sisters, what does that mean? Who's he talking to? Talking to the church. Remember, he's not talking to people that are outside of he's not talking to people who do not know Jesus in an intimate way. Every bit of this is talking to brothers and sisters. And he reiterates that time and time again. Family, brothers and sisters, fellow Christians, fellow believers, he says, do not become teachers. The first warning in James chapter 3 is he says, do not teach. The Greek here indicates anyone who specifically taught in churches. He's referring to rabbis. Now, you've got to understand that the rabbi was someone who was a noted and respected teacher, was a man of honor in the community. Now, what he's doing, he's not discouraging you to teach, so don't you quote this verse to Ron when he asks you to help out in weed jamming. Preacher said not many of us will become teachers. I'm just trying to be biblical. No, what he's doing. Now, you got to get this. If we don't go any further, he's not discouraging you from teaching. He's trying to tell you how serious it is when you become a teacher. See, that's a problem in many churches today. We do not understand the seriousness of teaching others. Oftentimes, people will teach on Sunday morning and they gather their lesson on Saturday night. Sometimes Sunday morning before they go to school, Sunday school. Now, let me just say this. There are times when your week has been ridiculously crazy and you've had a lot of things going on, maybe an illness or sickness, and there are exceptions. But if you constantly are not investing and preparing as a teacher, that is a heart problem. Because you are teaching somebody, and if you are teaching stuff or substance that is fallible, that has a lot of loopholes, then what you're doing is you're equipping this person to teach someone else doctrine that is fallible and full of loopholes. See, my teaching on Sunday morning, I'm not just going to be held accountable for you. I'm going to be held accountable for anyone you tell what I taught. We go on Facebook sometimes or YouTube sometimes, and we'll do little reports on those, and there are thousands of people that watch or look at our Facebook page or our website or listen to our sermons. Had someone call me, a truck driver one time from Iowa, wanted to know if he came through here, could we baptize him at this church? You don't know who you are going, and he says, I want you to understand there is a seriousness about teaching anything, and that's why not many of you should become teachers, because you're going to be held accountable for what you teach. In a last-minute lesson, and you say they're just kids. Let me tell you this. I'm speaking on kids right now. Children have a much higher attention ability than you and I do. He says, I don't want many of you to become teachers in the church, because those who teach will be judged more strictly. Tongue can bring about judgment. What is he saying here? He's saying that you're going to be held accountable for what you know or what you think you know. You can't do this. Why? Because the Bible says, where does it say about it? I don't know, but I've always taught the Bible said that. You're going to be held accountable for that. The number one thing in our fivefold vision statement, the number one thing posted all around this church is to know what we believe and why we believe it. Not because the pastor said it. You don't believe it because I said it. You believe it because the Word of God says it. Because I can lead you wrong, I can say something wrong, and it has to be in this book. That's why we go expositionally, verse by verse, and every time we teach on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night, because if we step outside of that process, it can be more human influence than it can be godly influence. And we're going to be held accountable for that. I don't want many of you to become teachers, because when you become a teacher, you put a stricter judgment on you, because you are putting my words in your mouth. Be careful when you say I said it. That's what God is saying. Have you ever told somebody something? When it got back to you, it wasn't nearly close to what you told them? Makes you mad, don't it? That's happened to me a lot. No, I didn't say that. Are you kidding me? Who said that? Well, I'd rather not say. Well, don't come and tell me they said it if you're not willing to tell me, because I'm ready to do what the Bible says and confront them. I know what I said. I will stand on what I said. If I'm going to say it, then I need to stand by it. If not, I don't need to say it at all. But there are times you've said something that's got turned all the way around, and it's been massaged to what they actually wanted to tell the person. And you get upset because they've changed your words around. That's what God is saying. Don't become a teacher if you're going to change my words around, because if you change my words around, you're going to be held accountable. Verse 26 of James 1, he says that if you think you're religious and you don't control your tongue, your religion is worthless. So the very first warning found in verse number 1, he says, I don't want you to become a teacher if you're not going to take it serious, because your words have the power to condemn. Number 2. He says, indeed, we make many mistakes. But if we can control our tongue, we would be perfect. So, can we be perfect? The word perfect here means to be without error. To be complete or mature would be probably a better interpretation. If you can control your tongue, you'll be complete in your walk with God. If you can control your tongue, you would really be mature in your walk with God. If you can control your tongue. So he goes from being a teacher, specifically talking to teachers, now he's talking to everybody. And he says, I want you all to understand, yes, you're going to make mistakes. Yes, as a matter of fact, if you could just learn to control your tongue, and we're going to see the irony of this in a moment, you would be complete, you would be almost perfect in your livelihood. And then he gives an illustration, and we'll finish with the illustration here in a moment. He says that the tongue is small, but the small utensil of the body can do a lot of powerful things. Verse number 3, it says we can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth, and a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go, even though the winds are strong, like they're called according to eye. Now, let's look at this, because there's 3 different illustrations. 2 of them are universal. 1 of them is completely separate. The first 2 illustrations are a bit and a rudder. And he says these 2 things are so small, but they have the ability to control large objects. The rudder can control a great ship. Even though the oppressive wind comes against it, it will still steer that ship. And he uses the other one, he says that a bit. And a powerful horse's mouth, that little piece of steel, can control that beast of burden. What he's doing now is he's showing the effect that the tongue has on the individual. words will affect you. Your words can hurt you. Your words can help you. I'm going to go a little further and say your words can destroy you. The tongue is very small, but it can control the entire direction of the life of the believer. Adolf Hitler turned a humane people into some of the most inhumane that our world has ever seen by the power of the tongue. You understand that? Part of the propaganda and part of the lies that he told was he was lying to his people, and he convinced them that every race was out to destroy them, and therefore they turned on every race because of what he said. The power of the tongue. It's interesting that James says that the tongue is extremely small, but it can carry a lot of weight in the direction of the life of a believer. I know many of you, I know we've said things in the past. You ever said something you wished, as it was coming out, you wished you could catch it and shove it back in? We've all done that. You know what the tongue can do? It can affect your relationship with other people. It can hinder your testimony. It can cost you your job. You don't think the tongue's a powerful thing? Go to Raleigh-Durham International Airport. Bomb! That's all you got to say. One word and tell me how powerful the tongue is. You can be the most insignificant person in the world, and I promise you all eyes will be on you. Just for what you said. And what James is pointing out with the bit and the rudder is he's saying that that little utensil inside the jail cell, the prison walls of your teeth, can do a lot of damage if it's not right. Look at the ship, look at the horse, and you don't admire the bit. You look at the ship, you don't admire the rudder, but without the rudder, the ship would never go anywhere. He said that tongue controls a lot of your destination of your life. Think about it. Wouldn't it be hard to go to somebody at your work and tell them about how good God is when just hours before they heard you curse His name? Would it be hard to tell somebody how God has changed your life when they know that you lie to everybody in your place of employment? You could go to church every time the doors are open, but your tongue will betray you because your tongue steers the direction of your life. And that's what James is saying. He said that the tongue has the power to affect you. And number 2, I'll read this very quickly. He says in verse 5, in the same way the tongue is a small thing and can make grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a forest on fire. Let me just stop right here. Not only does the tongue have the ability to affect you, the tongue has the ability to affect those around you. You know, the one thing, I look around and make sure, the one thing, Joe, that I've noticed going on the van, picking up some of those kids, is more than hearing Parker speak or more than, they're just looking for somebody to be nice to them. A lot of little girls today, young girls, are making bad decisions because they've never had someone to say, you're a good girl. I'm proud of you. You're beautiful and I love you. Daddy cares about you. You are the most important thing in Daddy's life. And they never hear that. And when somebody comes around and with the power of the tongue, they give them a compliment, they crumble. Think about it. Hitler did something years ago, and then I'll end this for tonight and pick up next time. I told you I was going to get you out a quarter after. Adolf Hitler took 100 children within the same age bracket. As you know, he did a lot of testing, human testing. He took 50 kids and he put them in one room. He put 50 kids and he put them in another room. He fed them the same, pretty much kept them the same schedule. So they had identical lives except one thing. The 50 kids over here to my left, all they did was get provided for. The 50 kids over to my right, they had someone come in and give them words of affirmation. I love you. How are you doing? I'm proud of you. You're doing great today. grew stronger and taller and had the least amount of issues. And the comparison with the ones who had no words of affirmation were astounding. They were sickly, their growth rate was not nearly as effective as this, and they were discontent and at war with each other. Not because of the food they fed them, not because of the facilities that they allowed them, but because of the interaction of the tongue in the lives of those kids. Listen, folks, we have ruined more churches and we have lost more people to this world because our tongue betrayed our witness. And we say, I love Jesus, but when we talk, we don't show. So as we begin this journey over the next week or so on the power of the tongue, I want you to understand that he says, first of all, just for you, he says, you shouldn't become a teacher if you don't take it serious, because the things you say, you'll be held accountable for. Understand that little weapon within the confines of your mouth, that tongue, it will affect you, and it will affect you drastically. But not only will it affect you, but it'll affect all of those around you. So guard your tongue. Because I want to tell you this. Even though we can say, I'm sorry, you can't take it back. Let's pray. Father, thank you for your words tonight. We're just beginning, scratching the surface of the power of words in the tongue. I just pray that you get everybody home safe tonight. Young people, teenagers, the children, keep them safe.